It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. Nielsen, Cass, engaged with you. Brought to you once again by our wonderful partners at CoolBet. If you want to bet the Oilers and Bruins tonight, you can go do that. Oilers are underdog, which they haven't been a lot lately. They'll be an underdog tonight against the big, bad, really good Bruins. So you can bet that. If you sign up for an account today, use the code 2GUYS, number 2 in the word guys. 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. Let's get to the elephant in the room, boys. Gager, did you watch Mando?
I did. What'd
you think?
Did you watch the episode from yesterday too?
I haven't watched yesterday's yet.
I haven't watched the
I watched yesterday's.
You already watched yesterday's?
Well, because there was no hockey game, so we had some.
Good point. Good point.
It was one of the those are usually the nights when if we're gonna watch something we have it, and so my wife didn't have anything, the kids didn't have anything on a Wednesday night, and there was
quiet
no
night.
game. So yeah, after the kids went to bed, we decided to do we didn't eat dinner together as a whole family. We fed the kids
Parent
earlier.
dinner. I love
parent,
it. Yeah.
Parent date, just at home. So I made some fusion, so some Thai. It was ramen, but it was Thai. So I did the eggs, ramen style eggs, but then
I thought you were talking about a bag of Ichiban.
No, real ramen, not Ichiban. Get out a little, Dusty. That's based on the real stuff, which is so much better than the Ichiban ramen.
I had no idea.
Yeah, go to. You know what? If you haven't ever had a chance, go to Tokiwa in the Brewery District in Edmonton for lunch and get the ramen there. It is fantastic, and it will change your opinion of that Ichiban ramen for forever. But anyways, so I did something like that, and then we just kind of hung out and then watched the show. So it was good.
Perfect. That's great. So don't tell us about what's the second episode good? Was it good?
You know what, you guys, you both need to mute, and I will talk to our viewers. No, it was good. It was good. It was good. It was still good. Okay. Yeah, building. I mean, it's building still. Building. There was one moment I really, really liked in it. Towards basically right at the end, where I'm like, oh, that's sweet. Right at the end. So, but it was good.
I'll probably watch it today.
Solid episode. Not anything game changing, but it was solid.
Gager, what'd you think of the first one?
I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it. Yeah, I love the old Western style of storytelling. It's great. He's so cool to see Mando, and then the little Mandalorians, and him coming back and going on this adventure to reclaim his status of Mandalore. I love it. It's great.
I love the pirates. I love the space crocodile or whatever that was. That was just an epic way to start a season. That was amazing.
It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah, and I thought the kid was Mando at first. And
so did I.
And then when Mando comes in and saves the day, I was like, oh, there he is. Okay.
Yeah,
they did a good job kind of making you feel like it was a throwback, right? But it wasn't. So good start, solid start. I'm jealous of Cass that he's already seen. Maybe I'm not. I'm excited now because I still get to watch it. So yeah, a couple of different things going on there. All right, boys. Oilers and Bruins tonight. Looks like Evander Kane is going to return to the lineup. So they didn't have him last time they played. But Gage, your biggest takeaway from that time, last time they played, and now you throw Evander Kane in the mix here. I mean, the Bruins barely ever lose at home. But the Oilers should push them tonight, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that although they lost the game here, and I like that it's so close together, right? It's not like at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, you have kind of a better baseline to see how both teams are doing. So, yeah, I expect to get the little extra juice from Evander back in the lineup. They're kind of solidifying what this team will probably look like once the playoffs begin. That's encouraging to get your whole lineup back and start gearing up for this playoff push. I hope. Actually, if it's a bad game, I can just throw on second episode of Mandalorian. So win-win.
That's right. Either way, I mean, the game's going to be over by 8:00. I'll be watching Mando as soon as the kids are in bed. It's going to be perfect timing. Cass, you break a rib along the way? Playing
not junior pro. I cracked ribs when I was a kid. I can't remember exactly what year that was. Would have been Pee-wee or Bantam. I did, and I did that because I was climbing in the middle of winter on top of a friend's garage, and I fell off and hit a fence.
Ouch!
Yeah, it wasn't a great moment for me,
Yeah.
but it hurt bad. I bruised ribs before in my pro career, and that really hurts. As I try to get back in the middle of the
There we go.
camera,
Yeah.
push my chair out. There we go. Back in center. And just like it took me some time to figure out where center was, bruised ribs, cracked ribs just take time. Hard to breathe. If you're a physical player, hard to hit.
I was gonna say, like, I'm curious, like, coming back in tonight, is he jump right back into it, or do you think Kane has to be a little? I guess I don't think he
necessarily. If the doctors say he is healed, and because if it's cracked, it's going to be okay. If there's the calcium or whatever, like on the bones to heal across that, if the doctors have determined that, then your risk of re-injury to the bone is low. But if there's still residual bruising and soreness to the muscles, then there's some potential there. I think it's less about re-injuring it and more about mentally, is there going to be any hesitation to engage physically? That to me is the bigger side of it. You certainly may try to protect it if you're hitting anybody. So you basically try to, when you tuck your elbow, and if you think about when you're hitting somebody, normally your elbow kind of rests against your ribs when you drop your shoulder in, but you could see a little bit of I'll call it a shoulder drop, where you're almost basically trying to crunch in and tuck that side. So your elbow's almost resting on your hip when you're hitting someone, so that, the impact pressure goes through your shoulder and your hip instead of through your ribs. So there's little things like that, but we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see how engaged he is. How physical is he? Is he involved, or is he showing some hesitation? But either way, I mean, I'm happy he's back. And now all of a sudden you have a depth problem in Edmonton,
full
which
roster.
is a great problem. So, I mean, who do you guys think comes out of the lineup?
I think it would be Shore. Shore's kind of been that guy, right? Like, he's been up and down, yo-yoed all around. Now, I mean, could you justify taking Costin out because Kane provides a lot of the stuff that Costin could bring to the table? Maybe, but Gager, I would think to start here at Shore, and then you kind of go from there. If somebody's struggling, you can throw Shore in because he's actually not in a bad spot right now.
Yeah, you say Costin. I would rather have him in the lineup because it provides a lot more sandpaper to the Oilers lineup, where opposing teams have to look over their shoulder a little bit more with those two. And just the fact, if things do get a little bit more physical, those two do not shy away from scrums and sticking up for one another. It makes everyone a few inches taller.
Well, and let's just talk about the physicality thing for a second. Somebody was texting in on my show this morning talking about the Oilers maybe not liking that physical side of things. Like, I look at the Oilers and say, from a goal scoring advantage, they're going to have the advantage over pretty much whoever they play, obviously. I think from a goaltending defensive perspective, there could still be some lapses there when you get to the postseason. But Cass, physically, this team's not going to be pushed out of a series, I wouldn't think, right? Like, they're past that. Remember when they brought in Kane, they're like, finally, some grit. But since then, you've added Costin to this lineup, you've added Desharnais to this lineup, Ekholm to this lineup. Like, I feel like the Oilers Oilers fans, I should say, should not be in fear of the Oilers physically getting pushed out or dominated in a series.
You got Bugstad too that came in.
Yeah, big body
in the forward group. Even though he's not like a physically scary guy, like he doesn't run guys over and take suspensions type of player, but he is a big body that can stand in there if he needs to. No, I don't. At the start of the year, Dusty, with just Evander Kane, I had my doubts.
Yeah,
about that.
Fair enough.
About in a long playoff series, particularly in the defensive core, not so much for the forwards, because I don't worry about that with the forwards. We've seen McDavid, we've seen Draisaitl push back, bite back. We knew Kane was there, so I wasn't as worried about it with the forwards, but more on the defense. Is like, is anyone going to ever be scared to go to the front of the net? Because Darnell was playing such a high minutes and against such the skill opposition, where I think he has had to dial a bunch of that back in this game. But I don't worry about that now. Like, you have transformed in the last 2 months this team, and in particular the D-core, to where you have that physicality and you have the Ekholm. You're going to get a stick in the ribs. You have the Desharnais. You're going to get a slash in your back. You have those guys that are there now. I just and I think internally, and we've seen in some of the interviews, the Oilers talk about like how they think they're like, we're not going to get pushed around by anybody. We've got guys that can push back and they can engage in that, and I think they're right.
Yeah, Gager, they're not wrong. That's for sure. I mean, I think they can certainly hold their own here.
Yeah, I mean, they look what the Nuge did. That guy's been spending too much time in the dispensaries. Like, this is a team that sticks up for one another. I have no issues thinking that if the things go to the more physical side, the Oilers not only have the proper personnel to deal with it, but they also they don't shy away from it as well. So yeah, I have.
Well,
I look
McDavid and
forward to
Draisaitl are like
tonight's
his key guys. If somebody wants to lean on these guys, they're big guys. Like Draisaitl is a big guy, and Connor McDavid is, I get it, ridiculously fast, but McDavid's not a small dude anymore. Like he's a grown ass man now, right? Like he can handle himself physically if things get in, from a fighting. But if people want to play physical against Connor McDavid, I don't think they're going to wear him down that much.
The last thing you want is Connor McDavid throwing body checks, and I don't mean that from a Oilers standpoint. I mean an opposing team standpoint. The guy is a missile. Like he's a 200-pound missile, and if he hits you, that's like we've seen a couple.
That's a lot of momentum coming your way.
Oh my gosh! And his balance and strength that can't feel.
Well, and then it also gets everybody else going even more on the team, right? Remember Game 7 last year against the Kings? Big hit on, was it Mikey Anderson in the corner, and then it was on at that point. So I think not necessarily sure you want to engage and activate the Oilers' physicality in some of these matchups. Now, I don't know how tonight's game is going to play out, but from a Boston Bruins perspective, you guys, right now, if I had to say what I will say, one team in the league would pose the biggest challenge to the Boston Bruins. Which team do you think that is? Cass?
I lean, and I know Boston beat up on them the other day, but I lean New York Rangers.
Okay.
I lean New York Rangers, and I think the offensive depth that they have, if they can start to click, if there's not too many cooks in the kitchen in New York, I think that becomes a little bit of a challenge. And I know Boston's got a great defense, but I just look at it and I go, okay, if New York gets some good, if things line up right for New York, so they get some good goaltending, their defense stays healthy, and offensively they click with the firepower that they have now. I mean, I think they're a threat to beat anybody in the East, and I put them up there. Close number 2 would be Carolina. I don't know if either of you guys are going to call them, so I'm not going to unpack that at all. But I do think New York, as of right now, I would say I think New York's got a good shot. With that being said, anybody could win because they're all really good.
Gager?
I say Toronto, because the Boston Bruins will beat them up so bad that they'll feel so good about themselves that they'll think it's a cakewalk after that and lose in the next round just because of the dominance they had over that team. No,
that would be something.
I would have to agree with Cass. I think the Rangers pose the biggest threat. The scrums after every whistle of that game over the last weekend was ridiculous. These are two teams. I hope they end up playing each other in the playoffs here, because it'll be great. And you just get the balance, the perfect balance of goaltending, defense, high-powered forwards. You might have to give the edge. That's a close one. What do you guys think with who gets the edge in talent up front? Like, does it go to the Rangers? I think they might have a slight advantage now with Kane.
Yeah, I guess with Kane added. Yeah, with Kane added, and he's been there, right? Significant addition for them. I think it would be Carolina. I like Cass's close second here in Carolina, because I think Carolina probably can beat you in a different way. Like I guess I haven't watched the Hurricanes enough, but from what I see and read and the little bit I do watch about them, I mean, they're going to be in your face, but they're just going to play you not just between the whistles, but maybe, like, I think if you get engaged with Boston after the whistle, they might feast off that a little bit. I think Carolina might be able to just kind of keep it between the whistles and keep it between the lines and use their style of play, which is pushing the pace and being aggressive on the puck, to cause some issues for them. So I don't know. Maybe this Bruins team isn't as ornery as I view them to be, and maybe they'll be a little bit more focused in the postseason, but I could see that. I guess that being an issue for them. Nothing against Toronto or Tampa, but I don't mind these picks in the ice. I guess no love for the Devils, but the Devils just haven't been there, right? It seems like there's a learning curve there for those guys.
Alligators only because they got all them tooth but no toothbrush.
Exactly, Cass. Now, on the other side of it here in the West, interesting because I think you can view the Oilers as arguably maybe the toughest out in the West, but they're fourth in the Pacific right now. So I thought it would be a fun little task here if we power ranked the Pacific, or not the Pacific, power ranked the Western Conference as a consensus here. So we can kind of discuss our way to it. And I guess, should we start at the bottom or the top, boys? What do you think? We're not going to do the non-playoff teams. There's like 9 teams. Well, let's just do it if the playoffs started today. Winnipeg would be the bottom, I would think, of the playoff teams. They're two wins in their last 11. I think that's probably where it goes. But then you got Minnesota, Dallas, and who's the other team in the Central? Minnesota, Colorado, obviously. And then you've got the 3 teams and the Oilers here in the Pacific. So let's start. Who do you think is the weakest of that 7? I'm just going to grab a pen so I can write this down. This pen's broken. Gager, who do you think? Oh, Cass, go ahead. Who's the weakest of the 7?
No, I was going to say Minnesota to me.
Really?
Really?
Of Winnipeg? Are we clearly? Did we put Winnipeg at the bottom there?
Well, are we just we're just ranking them?
No,
Like,
sorry,
who's the
power
weakest?
rankings. You know what? No, I wouldn't have Minnesota there. Seattle.
Seattle at the bottom of the
Really?
7.
Yeah.
Gage, are you opposed to that? I think I'd probably have Seattle there too, but
So 8's Winnipeg. As
8
of
would be
now?
Winnipeg. Just they've won 2 of their last 11. I think. I mean, unless you want to make a case for Winnipeg over a Seattle or something like that.
No, I can't say Seattle because they have guys that have won. Geez, that's a good. I'd have to. Oh God, that's Minnesota. Okay, no.
You know what, Gager? How comfortable would you be if I put LA there instead of Seattle?
That's what I'm.
Because I'd be fine with LA there.
LA
And then
gave the
Seattle
Oilers a
above.
run last year, though. Like without Fiala, without Doughty.
I just think the Kings are always better suited for the playoffs with the way that they play. Like they have 2 of the best defensive centers in the game, right? And it makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk yourself into Seattle then in the 7th spot? Or
have.
Vegas? I mean, Vegas isn't first right now, but
They're hot right now, man. I wouldn't.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. No.
I think
I
if I had a vote, I'd vote Seattle here too. I would say that. Well, I do have a vote, I guess. I don't know why I said if I had a vote.
okay. I think Seattle. I would go Seattle, I guess. Jeez.
All right. Well, then what's the next one then, Gager? You lead us on this 6th one. Who would be 6th right now?
Minnesota?
They're the hottest team in the league.
I would lean LA.
I just find Minnesota always bows out quickly. You know, not that LA doesn't, but I just after watching what the Kings do, I'm gonna go Mini.
You're gonna go Mini.
I think Fleury's
You're gonna go
fall
LA?
apart.
Yeah, I'd go LA, but I'm not uncomfortable with putting Mini there either. Because I probably, if I went LA at 6, I'd probably put Mini at 5. So,
Well, I'm torn on this. Yeah, we can do Mini there. I mean, they've been really good lately. They play low scoring games. Like they beat Winnipeg yesterday 4-2. Prior to that, I had this on the Lock Shop yesterday. The Minnesota Wild, prior to that game yesterday, 6 of their last 7 wins, both teams combined for 3 goals. Not they held the team to 3 goals. Like both teams combined for 3 goals. So
here's the thing: is when playoffs come and teams tighten up. You know, Mini's only scored 171 goals this year. You know, when the game tightens, and Kaprizov, if he can't generate all by himself, where are they getting their goals from? Because other teams are going to tighten it down too. You've locked your defense down, but other teams have tightened it down too. And that's kind of how I view LA too already. Now I know LA has actually put up quite a few goals. They've scored a lot and they've given up
they allow a lot too.
But they allow a lot too. And if LA goes in okay, now it's playoffs, now we're going to lock it down. I kind of go the same thing with them. Like I get where they've added some players offensively in LA, but at the same time, I'm just like, okay, well, where are they going to have the difference maker coming from here? Which is why I have them a little bit lower. So I'm fine with Minnesota being at 6.
All right, we can do Minnesota. We can go Minnesota there. So Seattle at 7, Minnesota at 6. the only other team we've talked about in the bottom three are the Kings. So is this a King spot? I think this is a King spot. Gager, King spot?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Kings. So then the conversation leaves us with Oilers, Stars, Avalanche, Golden Knights. That's 4. Those are the final 4. So is it the Golden Knights or the Stars in this fourth spot, do you think? I'll hop in first here. I would have the Golden Knights in this spot, and I'd probably have Dallas in the top 3. I just think they've got the pieces with the Heiskanen. I love Ottinger is a significant advantage over anything they've got in Vegas. So I'd have Vegas in this 4 spot. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'd have Vegas too. You can't. Yeah. And when you get down to the goaltending battle now with Quick, I mean, could he resurrect himself from 10 years ago? That's tough. I don't think that happens. So Ottinger's, he's ridiculous. He's unbelievable. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Vegas.
Yeah, I would probably disagree with you guys, but
Really?
I'm not gonna
It's already 2-1.
win out and convince you. It's already 2-1, so Vegas goes there. But I would.
Okay, then you lead the way on 3 here, Cass. Because what would have been the talking point here? Well,
What would be
Vegas
the
in at
talking
4,
point?
and we'll get to the top 3 here. Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering, who's the next team that you were considering there?
Probably the one that I'm going to put here,
Okay.
which is which I would put here at number 3, which would be the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay. All right.
I put the Edmonton Oilers there, and my reason being, they have the talent to be number 2 or number 1 in the power rankings. You still have, even like the other day, the game you dropped against Winnipeg, where you just completely, and call it goaltending, call it whatever you want, team play and goaltending. If Jack Campbell's in the net, Stuart Skinner's been fine. You're still running, if I look at how the team has been playing recently, you're still running it at 5-3-2 in your last 10. So you lost some games in overtime. I get that. If we count those, even as if you win those, your record looks a little bit better. But the way that they have lost some of those games, I still am kind of like, I get post-trade deadline, and I believe that this team is a lot better than they were pre-deadline. They solved a lot of problems. But I'm not ready to say, okay, they're at the top of the power rankings here. They are the team to beat in the Western Conference. They're not there yet. Could they get there in the next week, 2 weeks? Sure. You beat Boston and beat them handily today. I probably am going to say, okay, no, I was wrong. I need to bump these guys up. But they're still, the way they're losing, I don't have them all the way at the top. So I would slot them in at 3rd.
Gager, where are you at with the Oilers being in the 3rd spot?
That's what I was thinking before. Just, yeah, they have all the right pieces, but like Cass mentioned, we just haven't seen it yet in that playoff type. Well, we saw it last year, but I need more compared to the last 2 teams. I would need to see a little bit more from them throughout probably this season, a little bit more consistency in some of those areas. There's still some, they're not huge question marks, but there's small little ones going into the playoffs of certain areas.
Yeah, I think until we see this group together being able to win some hockey games 2-1, 3-2, which is how you're going to have to win some games in the playoffs. And they look healthy here. They do look like they've got a pretty good roster. I was talking about this earlier on my show today, and I said I'd still, maybe out of just respect to the Stanley Cup champions, I'd probably still have Colorado at 1 in this list. But I said, one of the teams that I don't think the Oilers would like to face or prefer to face compared to some others would be the Dallas Stars. And if the playoffs started today, guys, they would get the Stars. Vegas right now is first in the conference. Oilers are in that first wild card spot, so Dallas would be second, and Edmonton would get Dallas in the first round, which is a nasty first-round opponent, which is why I think you want to get up into the 2nd or 3rd spot. Home ice against the Kings or Seattle sounds a heck of a lot better than the Dallas Stars and Jake Ottinger and Heiskanen, who's a monster of a man who skates extremely well. Like, if any defensemen are going to stand a chance against McDavid in the league, I think Heiskanen has the measurables to be a guy that might be able to do it. So, yeah.
17 regulation losses.
Yeah.
I mean,
They lose a ton in overtime, but yeah.
They lose a ton in overtime because they don't necessarily have a team that's structured to build for that. But
yeah,
like they're 5-on-5. They're a really, really good team. Yeah, to me, they're number one right now, still power rankings.
So you would have them ahead of Colorado? That's what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah.
And probably, again, if I'm just looking at recency and I'm just looking, or a combination of not just recency, injuries, there's question marks around Landeskog. What type of player is he going to be when he comes back? Is he going to be able to bring what he needs to? They've had health issues in Colorado. You have some question marks there. Goaltending is a big question mark in Colorado where, I would have Colorado number second, and probably a close second, but I still think Dallas, to me right now, as of today, I think Dallas is the team to beat in the West.
Gage, you gonna make a case for the Avs here, or what do you think?
Oh yeah, you can't with Cale Makar. You can't doubt them. He's too dynamic. He's the type of guy that can win a series by himself. I think Heiskanen, great.
You don't think he can?
I'm just going off what I saw, and granted, I've only seen a handful of Dallas Stars, and maybe periods at that. But when the Oilers played the Stars back here, it was a really good game. The Oilers played at a very high pace, and we saw the Stars make lots of mistakes. That it was funny because the Oilers were making those mistakes leading up to that game, like crucial giveaways, and I think the speed of the Oilers and some of the personnel caused fits for the Dallas Stars. So I don't really I don't mind the matchup with the Dallas Stars. I think that that suits the Oilers well, to be perfectly honest.
So you want the Stars in the second spot here, Colorado at the top. Cass wants Dallas on the top spot, Colorado, and now it falls on little old me. And shit! I don't want to be put in this spot because I did say I would go with a healthy defending Stanley Cup champion in that spot for now, because Dallas hasn't proven anything ever in the playoffs either, right? They're really not unlike some of these other teams that we talked about. So, well, they went on the run. Was that a bubble run? Kiwi Ranta and stuff. But the bubble run was something. But no, by default, I guess I'm going to go Soricast. I'm going to go with Colorado for now.
It's okay. You can both be wrong.
That's interesting. I'm pretty fascinated to see how it's not a bunch of sexy teams like it is in the East, but I think the West playoffs are going to be pretty good, man. I think this discussion we just had kind of shows that. Yeah, I think they'll be good. All right, so one more little task I want to run by us here. Connor McDavid right now is on pace for 168 points, or 156 points and 68 goals, which is an insane season that we haven't seen since Mario. Yeah, like it was.
Hold my beer.
Yeah. So here's the conversation, and I went and looked at the era adjusted seasons and stuff, and Connor McDavid's year last year is a top 10 all time era adjusted offensive season. And there's like three guys from the 1920s who are on that list. And if you eliminate them off, it's just Wayne and Mario. And the season that he's putting together this year, I think probably ends up being a top 5 era adjusted season of all time, guys. So Wayne had 215 points. He had 209. Like he had a bunch of 200-point seasons. Where would you compare? Let's say McDavid finishes with 68 goals and 156 points in 2023. Is that on par, in your opinion, as far as impressiveness compared to 92 and 212, 87 and 205, 73 and 208, 52 and 215? Or is it like when Wayne had 62 goals, 121 assists, 183 points, or 55 goals, 109 and 164? That's all in the 80s. So how does this level of, oh my God, look at this guy with Connor McDavid statistically match up against the elite seasons that Gretzky put up in the 80s when lots of guys were putting up 120, 130 points?
It's so hard to measure eras with sport. There's so many other things that I consider with equipment structure, coaching, training. But if you do take all those factors in, I think it pretty much evens it out, Dusty. He's making the game just like when Wayne did. It looks like a peewee hockey game where there's that one kid who is just heads and shoulders above everyone else, where in years past you get the NHL and kind of like everyone, the top players some are a little bit better than others, but he is heads and shoulders above everyone else the same way that Wayne and Mario used to be. So I think he's doing something that's incredible, that the true generational tag this is what it means when he is being compared to the greats of all time. This is one of the greatest production offensively seasons that we've seen since 66 and 99.
Kaz, where you come out on this?
Listen, it's one of the greatest seasons of all time. I'm not surprised that he's having one of the greatest seasons of all time, and I think he does it again. So, listen, he's.
So you think we're going to lock into like 3 or 4 150-point season type of things?
He's capable of it.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Look at the team around him. He's not going to be missing a lot of pieces.
Yeah, nobody's leaving.
Years, so.
Yeah.
Yep. It's going to be unbelievable, and it is unbelievable. I don't like comparing eras either. I don't think it's so hard to do because there's so many variables. But I think it's safe to say that this is one of the greatest seasons ever. I mean, just the modern era, what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you buy into the formulas that do the era adjustment things, I mean, it's going to be a top 5 season of all time when it's all said and done, which is just insane. So, yeah, no, it's pretty impressive. Also, shout out to Mario Lemieux, because it's always Wayne and Mario. I saw this.
Mario's right there too.
When he retired due to the cancer he's dealing with, he was 2 points per game for his career, which was higher than Wayne, which is nuts. Then he came back and obviously a couple nice seasons, but was never the same and was hurt. If Mario Lemieux doesn't have to deal with injuries and everything else that he went through in his career, I mean, we might be talking about him up there at the top. So pretty remarkable that McDavid is in that class with those 2 guys, because we didn't think we'd ever see that again. All right, boys, before we wrap, predictions for tonight. What do you think? Oilers, Bruins, what happens tonight? I think the Bruins have 2 regulation home losses all year.
Yeah, we're I hate to say it, but I think the Bruins got this one 4-2 empty netter.
Cass?
I'm going to be bold. Say 8-1 Edmonton Oilers.
Of course you are.
No, I'll be realistic. Gager, you said 4-2 Boston with an empty netter?
Yeah.
I'm going 4-2 Edmonton with an empty netter.
Ooh, nice.
And I'm going to say no empty netter, 3-3 tie. No, let's go. I'll just say this. I'll say extra time required tonight, one way or the other. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. Gager and I got some Mando to watch so we can talk about it. And you guys have a great weekend, all right? Enjoy that game tonight.
All right, boys. Later.
Thank you.